Hi everyone, welcome back to the series. In the last episode we added our pickups, so now we have a way to increase our health and our lives during the game, and we also have some coins that we'll be using to upgrade our ship in one of the later episodes of the series. Now this episode, I do already have a tutorial that's quite similar to this, because we're going to be saving and loading our data, and we're going to be doing that by binary serialization. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a save class, a save object, and we're going to be writing and reading that to and from a file. So I'll try and go over this in as much detail as I think is necessary for this tutorial. If you want any more in-depth knowledge on binary serialization though, make sure you check out that individual tutorial that does cover it in quite a lot more detail. So let's jump straight into it. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to create a separate folder for our save and load scripts. We're going to need, I think it's 3 in total for this, and those are going to be our save object, a generic save and load script, and also we're going to need a save manager. So let's start with our save object first. This one should be the easiest of the 3 to complete. So we don't need our start and update. We don't want this to inherit from mono behavior, but we do need this to be system.serializable. Okay, so what are we actually going to be saving in our game? Well, we're going to need to save a public int for our coins, another public int, which will be a highscore, and we're also going to want to save a public ship stats, and that's going to contain all of our upgrades, so like our ship's movement speed, our fire rate, our health stats, all of those are going to be contained within ship stats. So for now, and maybe that is it complete, that's all we need. So our save object is going to be the object that we save. Sounds quite self-explanatory. So now we can move on to our save and load function script. So again, we don't need a start and update, and we're just going to need several more namespaces. So we're going to need to be using system.io. We're going to need to be using system.runtime.serialization, using system.runtime.serialization.formatters.binary, and that's all of them. So what methods are we going to need in this? Well, we're going to want to be able to call this from elsewhere in our project. So we won't inherit from mono behavior, and we'll make this class static. So we'll start just by adding our methods in. So we'll need a public static void save state, a public static save object load state, and we're also going to want a few utility methods in here as well. So we'll create a private static bool, save exists, private static bool directory exists, and one final private static string get save path. Okay, so we've got our methods. Let's add in our fields. We're not going to need many fields here. We're just going to need a private static string, and this will be our file name. And just for now, we're going to call this savedata.txt. Next, we'll need a private static string for a directory name, and we're just going to call this savedata as well. So let's start with the save state method. First of all, the save state is actually going to need to take in a save object as a parameter. So we'll just call that SO. And the first thing we want to do, we want to make sure that the directory that we're trying to access exists. If it doesn't and we try and save, we'll get an error. So we can use our directory exists method if directory exists, and then we'll need an else statement as well. So what does our directory exists method need to return? Well, it needs to return true or false if a directory exists. And the directory that we're going to be using is application.persistentDataPath plus a slash plus our directory name. We're going to just check if this exists. So we'll return directory.exists and we'll pass in that directory path. So if a directory exists, we can go ahead and save our file. So what we'll do, we'll grab a binary formatter, we'll call that BF, set it to a new binary formatter. We'll also grab a file stream, call that file, and we'll set that equal to file.create, and we'll get our save path. So now what does our save path need to return? Well, this is just going to return a string, which is going to be our full path. So we're going to need to return application.persistentDataPath plus a slash plus the directory name plus another slash plus our file name. So if we already have a file, we'll grab that and we'll overwrite that. If we don't have a file, we'll create one. So all we need to do, we'll get our binary formatter dot serialize, and we want to serialize the file that we've just created, and what we want to put into that file is our serializable object, our save object. And after we've done that, we want to make sure that we close off that file stream so we don't get any errors. Now, if the directory doesn't exist, we need to create that. So if the directory doesn't exist, we can call directory.createDirectory, and the directory path that we want to create is this. So we'll copy that application.persistentDataPath slash directory name. But now we need to do this again. So the way that we could actually do this is we could do if the directory does not exist, we'll create it and then we'll save regardless. So let's just tidy this up a little bit. So now the first time we try and save, a directory probably won't exist, so we'll create it and then we'll save it. The second time, this will already exist, so we'll just go straight down here. And that's all we need to do to save. So we'll move on to loading. So the first thing we want to do, we want to check if we have a save file to load. So we'll check if save exists. So we'll just fill in save exists now. And all this is going to do, this is going to return file.exists, and that's going to get the full save path because it's just going to be this again. So if our save exists, we want to load it. So we'll start by creating a new save object outside of our if statement, and we'll call that SO. And we're always going to want to return the save object. We do need to initialize this as well, so we'll set this equal to a new save object. So if our save file exists, we're going to surround this in a try catch block because we do want to try and catch one exception that we'll get to in just a second. So again, we'll need a binary formatter, BF, set it to a new binary formatter. We're going to need another file stream. Call that file again, and we'll set this one to file.open this time. We need to pass in the file path, which will be a get save path, and we want to make sure we open this in file mode.open. Now we'll set our save object equal to binary formatter.deserialize, and then we'll deserialize our file. Now we'll get an error here because currently this is returning type object and we want to make this a save object. Easy fix for that. We'll just cast it by putting save object in brackets just before the deserialization. And finally, again, we want to close off that file stream. So what exception do we want to catch here? Well, we want to try and catch a serialization exception. Now the main cause of getting this is if somebody tries to tinker with or amend your save file and they corrupt it. So right now we're just going to put out a debug.log warning, and we're going to just say fail to load save. We'll amend this later and we'll have to return an empty save object. So now if we actually get this serialization exception, we're going to put out a warning message, and then we're just going to end up returning an empty object. Now that's not good enough. So what we are going to want to do, we'll create one more private method. So that will be a private static. We're going to want to return a save object, and we're going to call this get default save. So we're going to use this method when we don't have a save object to return, and it'll just bring us back all the default values that we need. So really simple. What we're going to do, we're going to create a save object inside, call it SO, and set it equal to a new save object. We're going to set so.coins equal to 0. We're going to set so.highscore equal to 0. so.shipstats.maxhealth we're going to set to 3. so.shipstats.maxlives we want as 3 as well. so.shipstats.shipspeed 3. so.shipstats. What else have we got? Fire rate in here. What did we have it as before? I think it was 0.5. And then we're going to want to return our save object that we've just created. So what we can do, if our save doesn't exist, we can set so equal to get default save, and then this will return a default save. We can also do this when we get a serialization exception as well. So if the player tries to amend the file, they're going to lose all the progress, and rightly so. And that is the majority of our save class completed. So now that we've completed our save and load utility script, we can finally get on to our save manager. Now again, we're going to make our save manager a singleton instance, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you want some more in-depth knowledge on singletons, I do have a full tutorial on those on my channel already, so you can go ahead and go and check that out when you feel like it. But very simply, all we're going to need is a public static save manager that we're going to call instance, and then in our awake method, if instance is equal to null, we'll set instance equal to this, or else we're going to destroy the game object. Really simple stuff. We're also going to need our start method back. We're going to need a public void save progress, and that's going to need to be static so we can access it from elsewhere in our project. And we're also going to want a public static void load progress. So we'll start with the start method. We're going to create a new save object, we'll call that so, and we'll set that equal to saveload.loadState. So if we have a save file, this is going to have our save file's data. If we don't, this is going to create a new save for us and bring us back that data instead. And then what we need to do, we need to set our inventory.currentCoins equal to so.coins. We need to access our UI manager, and in here we want to update our highscore, and we're going to pass in our so.highscore for that. Apparently we're not. Why can't we pass something? Update highscore needs to take in an integer for our highscore, and we also need to fill in highscore. So it's going to be really simple. We'll make a local copy of highscore, so that'll be our instance.highscore, we'll set that equal to HS, and then we'll update the instance dot highscore text dot text to be equal to instance dot highscore toString. And we'll also mask this in the same way that we did our score. One thing we can do in this, actually, we can do a bit of validation. We can check if our instance dot highscore is less than whatever highscore we've put in, then we can update it. We head back over to our save manager. The last thing we need to do is get our ship data or ship stats onto our ship. So we'll do this the easy way. We'll create a public game object and we'll call this ship. And in our start we can set ship dot get component player, and we'll set our ship stats equal to so dot ship stats. So we can head back over now into our save manager, and the final thing that we need to do is we need to get our ship stats over into our player. So the way that we can do this, we can use GameObject.find objects with tag, and we'll find our player. We'll get the player component from that, and then we'll set the ship stats equal to so.shipstats. So what this will do, as soon as we load the game, this will try and load our save. So what about when we want to save our progress? Well, again, we'll need to create a new save object, call that so, and we'll set this equal to a new save object. We'll set so.coins equal to inventory.currentcoins. so.highscore will equal UI manager dot. Now we'll need a get highscore method here. So I'll just pop that in, and then we'll go over to the UI manager and create a public static void get highscore. That's not going to be void actually, that's going to be an int because we're going to want to return it, and we'll simply return the highscore that we have, instance.highscore. And then finally so.shipstats is going to be equal to, and we'll just get our player again in the same way. One thing that I am going to do, I'm going to take this out of the start method and put it into the load, and then just call load progress in the start. And that should be our saving and loading completed. All we need to do is create a new game object. We'll call this save manager, and we'll drag and drop our save manager script on. So if we play the game, we should have zeros in here. We shouldn't get any errors. We got an error. Why did we get an error? Why couldn't we set max health? We can't set max health because our ship stats in save object hasn't been initialized. So technically, we don't actually have ship stats. So, which way could we do this? I tell you what we'll do. We'll use a constructor inside of our save object. So if you don't know what a constructor is, it's called whenever the class is first created. So the way that we do this, we can make this a public save object, and that's how we define a constructor. And where we're actually creating our default save, we could possibly get rid of this. Because if we set coins equal to 0, highscore to 0, we set all these to as they should be, and then just before we start adding in our ship stats, we can do ship stats with a lowercase s, ship stats equals new ship stats. Now our save object should initialize itself, so we no longer need to create a default save here. So we won't need that else, and we also won't need that, because right up here where we actually set it equal to a new save object, when we do this, it's going to call this section. Let's get saving. So where do we actually want to save our progress? Well, we're going to want to save after we die, whenever we complete our game. So let's temporarily jump into our player script, and when we die and we have a game over, we'll call save manager dot save progress, and that leads us in nicely to the next episode, which is going to be our game over screen. Now this is going to let us either go back to a main menu, which we'll also be creating, or restart and go back to the beginning of the game. So make sure you tune into the next episode where we'll start making all those menus and we start to really tie this game together. So I'll see you over there.